And now what we're going to do is move into what we call a lightning round, where we're going to hear some vignettes from 5 local entrepreneurs with a special emphasis on what they did to go beyond BC. Mike Satterfield made the good point in the last session that when larger investors, institutional VCs, are looking for investments, they're not looking at companies with a local market. They're looking at companies that can sell their products and services on a global scale. So that's what this is going to be a little bit about, and we'll hear some interesting stories from our 5 presenters. But just before we introduce the first one, I'd like to call James Maynard up to talk a little bit, in fact for 2 minutes, James, on Wavefront.
I can barely say my name in 2 minutes. So at Wavefront, we help wireless companies grow and expand internationally. And one of the things that we see, a couple things. First of all, if you're thinking about wireless and you're not thinking global, you will not be successful. That's first of all, because all the wireless activity is happening outside of Canada, outside of North America. So begin with the end in mind. And the thing is, when you're a small company and you're looking for traction in international markets, there's a lot of resources that you can use to help you get access to those markets. Department of Foreign Affairs, Investment and Trade have got some great people on the ground to help you. BC Investment has got resources, and Wavefront. What we do is we blaze trails into open markets, and open markets for BC wireless companies. So we have relationships into Europe. We actually have access to markets now that represent over half a billion subscribers globally, into some markets like Europe through Orange, into Japan. In fact, Ryan from Hootsuite is one of the companies we're working with in a Japanese venture. To give you an example, we took 3 companies to Japan a year ago, and if you know the Japanese wireless marketplace, it's the most heavily monetized wireless marketplace and probably the most difficult market to penetrate in the world. And the Japanese actually came and approached Wavefront to hunt for smartphone applications for them. And it's the first time they've ever gone outside of their geographic borders to look for products. We took 3 companies a year ago in November, and 2 of the 3 have actually closed contracts, and these are very small companies, like less than a half a dozen people, and the 3rd company has deal flow. And we have another 10 companies that we're taking back this year. So what we can do is we can help compress time between idea and revenue, and that's what we're going to do at Wavefront.
Great.
Good.
Thanks, James. So our first lightning lesson speaker is David Helliwell, co-founder of Pulse Energy, and his talk is entitled How to Start a Cleantech Company in 2,846 Easy Steps. And I hope he'll explain to us what the significance of that particular number is. But David has been in the energy business since 1994, has done a lot of international work, and actually spent a number of years running a policy shop for a cabinet minister in the Canadian federal government. I wonder, David, what is more challenging, doing that or being an entrepreneur in the cleantech space? So without further ado, please come up and tell us a little bit about your experience in this business.
Thanks, Mike. And hello. First, I'd like to introduce a couple of my colleagues here. Quiva and Ashley are in the corner. Quiva is our full-time recruiter, which is a big part of hiring people and building a company. So that's a big part of my message today is the people and the persistence that are needed to support the partnerships that you need to build a company that's successful outside of your own markets. Maybe just a quick word about Pulse Energy. We're an energy management company started in 2006 here in Vancouver. There are 2 of us who started the company. The other guy's the software guy, a guy named Greg Kerfoot, who started Crystal Decisions in the 80s. I'm the energy guy. I used to explore for oil and gas under the ground. Now we explore for energy in buildings and find wasted energy wherever we can. We've got about 50 people now in Vancouver. To be clear, most of our business is still, if you look at where our customers are, is still in Canada, but our fastest growth is happening outside of Canada. So I was asked to give a perspective about how partnerships can be an important part of growing a company outside of BC and the home markets. And really, the most important thing for us and our partnerships, we now have two full-time partnership managers who are just riding a lot of the rockets that have started to take off. But first thing for us was just to start doing things and get out there and not look for partners and try to line up the perfect deal before we started doing anything. But just get out there, get some customers, get some things in the marketplace, and then things start to happen. So what happened to us was a small company some of you may have heard of called Cisco was trying to sell a new product that they were trying to launch in the energy management space to some of our customers. And they said, "Oh, go away, Cisco, we have Pulse," and that's fine. And there's no better way to engage a potential partner in a conversation with you than to have the ears of the people they're trying to sell their new products to. So it was an interesting situation that we never could have planned for, but what ended up happening was in the same 2-week period, we reached out to Cisco with a couple of email messages, and they were sending people to find out who this company Pulse Energy was, who was stopping them selling stuff to their customers. So in these early stages, we thought, these guys, they seem like maybe a competitor, but they're not getting a lot of traction. But we should probably just talk to them to see what's going on with them. And then we had these confusing conversations going two ways at the same time, where it took us a couple weeks to figure out that actually one person was calling us because Cisco had told them to, and another person was calling us back because we'd left a message for them, and it made it a little awkward for the first little bit of the conversation. But what ended up happening was that we got straight connected with the key people from both their global level as well as their regional level, and aligned to their core business direction. And I mean, it's surprisingly, during the Olympics, I was invited to see the first Canada-US hockey game with the number 2 guy from all of Cisco. And just because we were important to the Cisco Canada guys, and then there you go. So you find yourself, it's a little Forrest Gump-like, that you find yourself in this situation with this guy in a suite at a hockey game. And then he says, "Well, you know what? We need to get you guys into Shanghai, and because that's going to be a big part of our business going forward." And so then that snowball kept going, and we were launched in Shanghai with Cisco this spring, and they've now turned that into a template that'll be rolled out in other cities around the world. So that's just one little sort of snippet. There are all sorts of other stories that I'm sure everyone else here could tell. I think I'm at about 4 minutes and 40 seconds now, so I'll wind that up. But just to emphasize the importance of having the right people and being persistent to find those partnership opportunities and carry them through to make them happen. So thank you very much, and look forward to some conversation afterwards.